going to start recording. So once again, I'm Carrie Lynn Drinkwine, and I'm coming to you from Spark Wellness here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I am the owner of what's called Wise Wellness. And I'm a certified regenerative detoxification specialist, certified nutritionist, and certified Arvigo Maya abdominal therapist, as well as a clinical herbalist and iridologist. So I do iridology, which is the study of the iris. Your eyes are connected to 28,000 nerve endings inside your body, and it shows you a map of your full gland and organ system. So everything that you can see in the eyes is a reflection on the health of the gut, the organ system, the nervous system. You can see everything from acute situations to chronic and genetic predispositions that might be showing up in the body. Really, really powerful work. I love what I do. And I help people with autoimmune, with cancer, with just preventative care overall, and how to really achieve the highest level of vibrant health. So today I want to come to you and talk solely about nervous system health, so the brain and the nervous system. And I think collectively right now, we are experiencing a lot of intensity, a lot of stress, and we all know that stress isn't great for us, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper than that today. So I want to break down understanding your nervous system. So a lot of people feel like, oh, my brain isn't working or my nervous system isn't working, but they don't realize what that connection means. And so I want to break it down into understanding the three sectors of your nervous system. So we have what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of your rest and digest. And then we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight system. So this is when you're under stress, the fight or flight or the sympathetic is activated. And then we have the enteric nervous system. And the enteric nervous system is really the deeper part of the autonomic nervous system that controls like the movement of your bowels, the myelin sheath, the connection of the neurotransmitters and the communication to the brain. And this is all in your gut. And so this is a big piece of information to understand, that we actually, our entire gut health is responsible for our brain health and our nervous system health. And a lot of us don't make that connection. So I like to break down the simplicity and the complexity, I guess, of the nervous system. So you want to think of your nervous system as like an electrical current through your body. It's not Wi-Fi. It does actually have to transport via blood and hormones through your lymphatic system and through the myelin sheath. And so when we have an environment inside our body that is not conducive to this travel is when we get in trouble. So think of traffic, right? You're not getting very far when you're in a traffic jam. We can have a traffic jam inside our physical body, and that comes from acidosis. So I want to explain the nature of chemistry. We either have an acidic environment in our body or we have an alkaline environment. So we're either on a high, heavy traffic route or we're on an open highway with no traffic. So the difference in how that works is your body is basically trillions of cells and two fluids. We have blood and we have lymph. So our blood feeds our glands and our organs, and our lymph cleans our glands and our organs. And so the blood pumps through, we don't have to think about it, it's what's always feeding our organs. And then the lymph is what's cleaning all of the waste out of our organs. So what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe, what we put on our skin is how waste comes in. So as we clean that waste out, the lymph brings it to the kidneys. The kidneys get rid of that waste through the urine. And most of us do not have properly filtering kidneys. So how you would know this is if there's sediment in the urine, you're actually looking to have cloudy sediment in your urine, especially after like a 12-hour fast. So like no food, no water for 12 hours, like 8 at night to 8 in the morning, or 7 to 7 is one of my favorite rhythms to do. And really just see what that urine looks like. See if it's cloudy, see if it has flakes, see if there's, some sediment swirling around, and that's a sign that what's coming in is coming out. Now, if you just see like 1 or 2 flakes, you have some work to do. If you see clear urine, you have even more work to do, but it can be done. So when this eliminative channel is not open, we start to get into a state of acidosis. And acidosis is the foundation of all dis-ease. So acids are dehydrating and corrosive and destructive. And then alkalinity is very hydrating and healing. So when you look at these two sides of chemistry, we have to kind of break this down. And as a human, we are what's called a species type of a primate. So our scientific species type is primate, which means we're actually an alkaline species. So we thrive in alkalinity, and we will not have dis-ease or disease in alkalinity. And so what has happened throughout our systems and throughout our lifestyle is that we're way on this acid side of the fence. And so this acidosis is corrosive. So we want to think of, this nervous system as this electrical system in our body. And this electrical system in our body needs to be able to communicate to the brain. It needs to be able to move through the gut. It needs to be able to produce hormones. And so when we have this acidosis, it's actually almost like it shorts out the nervous system. And so we want to open up the pathways in the body. And so we open up the pathways in the body through cleaning the lymphatic system and draining out all of the excess waste. We also have what's called the myelin sheath in the body. And the myelin sheath is really like for those nerve endings and those receptor points. And so all of the nerves are actually located in our solar plexus. Our central nervous system is actually located in our gut. And this is the big disconnect. A lot of people don't understand that your gut health is your brain health. So if you're having foggy thinking, if you can't remember certain words, or like, why is my brain not doing as well as it used to be? This is all because of your gut health. So you've heard like the saying, like your gut is your brain, and that's absolutely true. So when you look into understanding the nervous system, you'll realize that the nervous system is really understanding the gut. So I want to dive deeper into that now. So we have, like I said, trillions of cells in two fluids, blood and lymph. We have to think of the whole system that way. So if the gut is not moving through, if the gut intestine and waste is not moving through the body, we're obviously going to have constipation, we're going to have belly bloat, we're going to have brain fog, we're going to have fatigue, but really understanding this whole environment is vital. So when you look at the foundation of your gut health, your gut is actually where all those neurotransmitters are. It's where all the communication is going to the brain. And the main thing to understand is it's really about understanding if you have a proper gut bacteria level. So we have what's called a gut microbiome. And the microbiome is responsible for all of this communication. The microbiome or the microbiota is responsible for the communication with the hypothalamus gland. And this is a big part where people don't understand. So, and I didn't either. So your hypothalamus gland is like the mama. It's what I say. She rules the roost, right? So the hypothalamus is the mom of the house, or the mom of the ship, right? The captain of the ship. And so when we have a good, healthy gut bacteria, that is communicating with the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is communicating with the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is responsible for your GSH, your growth stimulating hormone. It's responsible for your supporting your pineal gland, so your sleep hormones, if you sleep well. And then the pituitary also, the hypothalamus and the pituitary then also communicate with the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are responsible for so much in your body. They're responsible for telling your body to be in rest or digest or fight or flight. They're responsible for your sugar metabolism, your mineral conversion. They're responsible for regulating your circulatory systems in your autonomic nervous system. So the list can go on and on and on of what the adrenals actually have to do. And they're these tiny little glands that sit right on top of your kidneys. And they also support the kidneys. So if the kidneys are taxed, they actually are working harder to help the kidneys. So these glands have a huge job in our body, and it's probably the number one most abused gland in our body. And I'll get into that in a moment. So, and then the adrenals also are what's regulating this sort of feedback system. So to make it simple, if we have a poor gut biome and we don't have like a good healthy bacteria in our gut, then that communication is not happening to the hypothalamus. And then that hypothalamus is not communicating properly with the adrenal. So what will happen is the adrenal gland actually will start to produce excess amounts of steroids into your system. So you're producing tons and tons of cortisol into the body. And this steroid release is actually starting what's called a negative feedback loop. And so because the hypothalamus is seeing all of this excess steroid in the body, it's actually starting a negative feedback loop. So it's telling the body to produce less hormones, to produce so now you're going to have lower testosterone. Maybe you have too high of estrogen or too low of progesterone. So the whole system gets out of whack because our gut health is not properly communicating with our brain. And then the pituitary is not properly communicating with the pineal or with the adrenal. And then we have this negative feedback loop. And now we have imbalanced hormones. We have brain fog. We have fatigue. We can have lightheadedness. Like all of these things are signs of poor gut health. And so understanding how to clean this up is vital and what causes it. So for your brain and nervous system health, there are essential foods that support that health. And there are non-essential foods that degenerate that health. So this is a difficult one to explain or to digest, but coffee is one of the #1 things that take down your gut health. And even up to only 2 ounces a day will completely deplete your B vitamins, which are actually created in your gut. And so a lot of people don't know that. They think that we get B vitamins from animals, but your B vitamins are actually supposed to be produced by your gut biome. And this is an essential part of your adrenal health. So if you are low on vitamin B, you actually know that you have adrenal fatigue. That's a direct connection or a direct sign. The vitamin B is also essential to the production of magnesium in your body. And magnesium is actually stored in the blood, and it's what kind of feeds the nervous system. And so we need all of these components happening. So coffee is a big culprit of wiping out your gut biome, creating an acidic environment, and so is wine or alcohol. So 2 ounces a day will wipe that out. Now, I have good news. You get new stomach cells every 3 to 5 days. So every 3 to 5 days, your whole stomach reboots. So that's great. So say you went out, you had some wine, you had some coffee, you had some whatever. In 3 days, your body's going to regenerate itself. Now, if you're having wine and coffee every single day, now you're just in a constant state of degeneration in the gut biome. So balance is key. Now, all the things that wipe out our gut biome is this is a toxic chemical that we are broadly exposed to on a daily basis. So we have an active ingredient in our food, in our air, in our water, and it's called glyphosate. And this is on all of our non-organic foods. It's in our water, like I explained, because it's coming from runoff from people's lawns, from all sorts of different fertilizer sprays that's happening. And so about 75% of our air actually has this oral antibiotic in it. And so what glyphosate is exactly that. It's a weed killer, right? So basically this was established after farms started moving towards organic. And organic farming was like chemical-free farming, but it required a ton of manpower. So it was like paying lots of men in the fields to do this weeding. Well, basically Roundup replaced manpower, just like robots are replacing humans in lots of facilities right now. We're seeing basically the chemical pesticide is what we chose to replace having people weed and till the ground. So we have this chemical pesticide, and it's literally meant to kill every living organism. And we are consuming it on a daily basis if we are not eating 100% organic. And that's really difficult for a lot of us because organic can be a lot more expensive. It's also less accessible. Anytime you go out to a restaurant, it's almost never organic. So these are some really big factors that we have to kind of, put into play and to consider how often we go out to eat, where we go out to eat, what we'll put into our bodies. But non-organic foods have this oral antibiotic that's meant to kill everything. So it's doing exactly that in your body. It's killing every living organism inside the gut biome. And the other big problem with this compound called glyphosate is that it actually is water soluble. And so it leaks directly into your immune system. So the cell lining of your stomach is about 1 cell thick, or like half, basically like half of a hair strand, which sounds crazy, but it's actually meant that we are supposed to be in communication with our external environment. So the outside world is actually like that healthy gut bacteria from being in the dirt, from being in soil, from being in nature, is supposed to be how our system is. But we've gotten so far disconnected from that. We spend most of our time indoors in forced air. We spend most of our time behind computers, with all of the electricity in the air, and we are not connected to our nature anymore. And now we also have this chemical toxin coming in, and it's leaking directly into our immune system, and it's creating what's called hypoxic injury, which is a low oxygen environment in the gut. Outside of that, we also have after the hypoxic injury, when it's leaking to our immune system, it's creating a response in the body called C-reactive protein. So this is our body's response to inflammation. And so we know that this chemical pesticide causes a lot of inflammation in the body, and that is what's creating a lot of people's swelling, a lot of people's water retention, a lot of people's weight gain, a lot of people's fatigue. And so this is like a one big tied in mess. And so this chemical compound is also directly linked to several neurological disorders. It's linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, to autism, to Alzheimer's, to ADHD, like you name it. This is a contributing factor. Now, it's not the only factor, but it's a large contributing factor. So when the use of glyphosate started in late 1970s, early 1980s, we saw 1 in 6,000 children with autism. And moving forward from that, now our rate is 1 in 36 children with autism. And we have over 50% of the nation with some sort of reproductive or fertility issues. If we continue to move at this rate, we will actually have infertile humans in 20 years, and we will have 1 in 4 children with autism in the next 20 years, 15 to 20 years, is if we keep doubling at the rate that we have been. And this is like a really scary thought, because we don't even have the infrastructure to support that in our healthcare systems at all. So we do really have to pay attention to this, and then understanding how this is wiping out the gut biome every single day. Every single day, this oral antibiotic just sweeping out all your good microbiota, all your good gut bacteria, that's communicating with the hypothalamus, that's communicating with the pituitary, that's communicating with the adrenal gland. And this is why we have belly bloat, chronic fatigue, brain fog, lack of sleep. Like the insomnia is through the roof with people. And these are really, really, really important things to understand. So the foods that you want to also think about is that's just the gut health portion. That's like about having good gut health, having a strong gut bacteria and a good hydrochloric acid level is what's going to keep your whole immune system strong. So we are meant to be exposed to bacteria. We are meant to be exposed to viruses. Viruses actually just contain information that upgrade our system. And so when we have a proper level of hydrochloric acid and we have a really good, strong microbiota, and the microbiome is well populated with thousands and millions of actually different bacteria, we're able to kick these things pretty quickly. Now, the other part of understanding the nervous system is understanding it as this electrical system and understanding the chemistry of the foods that we're putting in. So like I explained in the beginning, we have 2 sides of chemistry. We have alkalinity and we have acidosis. And alkalinity is hydrating and healing, and acidosis is dehydrating and corrosive. Now, transfer that chemistry into angstroms of energy. And so angstroms of energy is a good way to understand how much energy your food has and how it's going to feed this electrical system. So angstroms of energy, if you want to look at the highest angstroms of energy and the highest alkaline foods on the planet are actually your fruits, which is a really hard thing to digest because a lot of us have been taught not to eat fruit because fruit is sugar. Fruit is actually fructose, and all 100 trillion of your cells use cellular ATP in order to have energy. So adenosine triphosphate is ATP, and that is achieved through carbon and oxygen. So basically, When we breathe air, there's our oxygen. That's part of our ATP, or part of our energy for our cell. And then carbon needs to come from our food. So how carbon is achieved is by either a glucose molecule, or ATP is achieved, excuse me, is by either a glucose molecule or a fructose molecule attaching to oxygen. And then that's ATP. It's that simple. So either a fruit or a vegetable attaches to oxygen and becomes cellular ATP. So now all 100 trillion of your cells have lots of ATP, they have lots of energy, and when they have lots of energy, that means the communication system is flowing, the impulses are fast, the myelin sheath is healthy, there's a lot of alkalinity in the body, and somebody with a high level of ATP will very, very, very rarely get sick. When we have a low cellular ATP, meaning we're lacking this energy, there's low oxygen in the cells, there's low carbon in the cells, this actually creates a very conducive environment for viruses, antigens, pathogens, and parasites to attach to the cells. And so when that happens, this is when we get sick. It's when these viruses attach to the cells and they're able to just kind of feed off of the waste in our lymphatic system, because these cells do not have their proper cell barriers. They're not strong enough to fight it off. So we're seeing this collectively right now with the virus that's happening, is people's internal systems are not alkaline enough. They are not strong enough to fight off this virus. And that's really, really sad and unfortunate. And so there's a lot that we can do through diet. There's a lot that we can do through supporting our gut health. So it's not just like random. It's not just like you get the virus, some of us die, some of us don't. It's actually a direct reflection of the internal environment of our body. Moving forward from that, so going into the angstroms of energy, how do we get this high level of ATP in our body and this high level of communication in our nervous system? Well, angstroms of energy are reflected based off the level of carbon that a type of food emits. So fruits are the highest. They have the highest angstroms of energy of any food. I always like to think of a really simple thing, like the higher you eat from the ground, the longer you'll stay out of the ground. And that's just a really fun and simple thing to remember. So I eat a lot of fruits. Actually, the foundation of my diet is fruit. Most of what I eat throughout the day is high vibrational fruits, berries, melons, and citrus. And then I eat lots of leafy greens and avocado and seeds and etc. But moving at the highest angstroms of energy is fruits. And then I'll go through some of my favorite fruits and why. So number one is watermelon. Watermelon's incredible for you. It's like 97% water, and it's basically filtered water because it's coming from the fruit. So we're not worrying about the water that's coming from the tap is containing glyphosate. Even when you're putting that water through a filter, because glyphosate is water soluble, you can't actually extract that compound out. So I really stick to like spring water, distilled water if you have to, and then water really coming from my fruits. And if you think back in time, we didn't drink water. We didn't have a filtration system. We ate fruits and berries and melons from the land, and that's where your water will come from. And if you start switching over to a fruit-based and water-rich diet in that sense, like water-rich foods, you'll notice you're incredibly hydrated and you're constantly using the bathroom because your body is just in immediate absorption and elimination. And something cool about watermelon is that it's pure fructose. So the fructose actually hits the stomach and is absorbed within a minute by your cells, like a minute. So think about instantaneous energy. And when we eat our foods, we should be getting energy from our foods and not feeling lethargic from our foods. So a sign that you're eating the wrong foods is you eat and then you want to lay down on the couch or take a nap or watch Netflix and you don't want to go for a walk or clean. For me, when I'm feeling a little bit tired, I will have my fruit and then I feel like, oh, I'm back. My body needed that cellular energy, needed that carbon energy, and now I feel great. So that's the power of something like watermelon. Filled with water, filled with electrolytes, filled with micronutrients, and absorbs fructose within a minute, and then the rest of the flesh of the watermelon will go into the intestine and start really hydrating the tissues. And this is a very important part of understanding constipation. constipation happens from acidosis and dehydration, all the hard, dried, heavy foods. So angstroms of energy also are directly in alignment with alkalinity, also directly in connection with hydration. So all three, they have high energy, they have alkalinity, and they have lots of hydration. One of the second foods I'd like to talk about is actually moving into your citrus. And citrus is an incredible lymphatic cleanser. So alkaline. And we think of citrus as acidity, but it's actually alkalinity. So citrus is highly alkaline. It actually pulls out waste, and it pulls on metals. And if you have heavy metal toxicity, some people are like, how do we get that? Well, it comes in many forms. If you've been vaccinated, you for certainly have heavy metals in your body. Flu shots, you have heavy metals. If you've had lots of antibiotics, you have heavy metals. If you've had exposure to, lead, sulfur, any of that stuff is metals. And it can also make it in through some of our foods. Like if you eat non-organic berries, they spray high levels of sulfur on those berries to ripen them faster. So you're actually ingesting sulfur when we think we're eating berries. So these are really important to understand. Like the metals in our system will actually become like interference, like the static signal with our nervous system. And so our nervous system communication really needs to be open and flowing. So citrus pulls on those metals. It starts to pull them to the eliminative organs. It'll start to move them out of your body. So I start my morning every day with citrus. I have like fresh juiced lemon and like room temperature water, distilled water, and I'll put even sometimes a sprinkle of cayenne pepper, because cayenne's actually very alkaline and it heals the gut lining, which is super weird, but it's like the only pepper that's actually very healing. So if you like spice, good news, have cayenne pepper, you'll be working on your gut at the same time. But I like to start my morning with citrus, start really pulling on those the lymphatic health. So remember, your body is trillions of cells and 2 fluids. 80% of your fluid, all that lies underneath the dermis of your skin, is lymph. And that's our cleaning system. So the citrus is just like pulling waste to the kidneys, pulling metals to the kidneys, getting it out of your body. So citrus is amazing. And another really cool part about citrus that I recently learned, actually from a business partner of mine, is that because the vines and the roots go so deep into the ground, especially organic citrus, like we think about, a lot of times we talk about what fruits to get organic and what not. If you can afford them all organic, it is better because it's coming from the type of soil that it comes from. So if you're getting a non-organic lime, yes, you're probably not ingesting the direct pesticide because of the peel, but what kind of citrus or what kind of minerals are coming from that dead soil? And that's a big thing of understanding, is that if our soil is dead, it basically, when it's sprayed with this chemical pesticide, and it's literally designed to kill all living organisms, and then we are planting food in that, there's no living organisms in the soil. There's no minerals left in the soil. And so if you are interested to learn more about this topic, I highly recommend studying with Dr. Zach Bush. I've been studying with him for a couple of years. I'm in an 8-week biology base camp course with him right now, and he's talking deeply about the soil research. And less than 1% of the Earth's food is deemed nutrient rich. 1% of the Earth's soil has nutrition in it. And that is a scary level, the scary, staggering statistic. And so what that means is that, all of these essential amino acids, we actually need amino acids for our nervous system. We need amino acids for our overall health, like for building bone and connective tissue system, for our eye health, for our brain health, we need amino acids. And so when we have this level of depletion in the soil, then we have depleted plants. So we have plants that aren't producing the 8 essential amino acids. We need 9 essential prepubescent, 8 essential after, just in case that question comes up. And so then we're having plants that have 2 or 4 amino acids. And this is really important that we have all 8. Like we need to have these amino acids. We need to have this mineral rich components. So back to lemons and limes, if it's an organic plant, it's the roots go really, really deep into the ground, and they're pulling lots of those deep, beautiful minerals out of the soil. And then we're ingesting those minerals, the phytochemicals, which are the high detoxifying agents of them. And it has high levels, citrus has high levels of vitamin C. And so this is actually like part of what feeds the electrical current system. So vitamin B, vitamin E, and vitamin C are like food for the nervous system. And these are all coming from your fruits, which is so cool. All right, I'm gonna move on. So grapes is the other one. Grapes are amazing for so many things. Kidney health is one of them. So red grapes are best. Both grapes are great. And actually, the more like the tartness of the grape will actually represents the phytochemicals that are present. And that's like the part of the cleaning property, the astringentness of the grapes. So it's kind of funny because I don't super like the really tart grapes. I juice them then, and I can drink them, but when I'm like eating them, sometimes it's too much for my mouth. So I juice the tart ones, but I like the really crispy ones, but even the skins, everything's really, really amazing for you. And so the skins are super cleansing. The phytochemicals in them are very astringent. They clean out the kidneys, they clean out waste, they clean out the lymph system. They provide a lot of rich minerals for your body, and they're actually a brain booster as well. So this is like a good substitute for reaching for a cup of coffee, but instead having a bunch of grapes is a really great option instead. And you'll be surprised at the energy it gives you and the natural fructose it's giving you so quickly, and that's so quickly absorbed by the body. Moving into another one is actually celery. Celery is amazing for your gut health. Celery juice, if you can. If you have a juicer, if you don't, you can get one pretty cheap. $50 for a basic. If you want to have a really good one, you can spend a couple hundred. That's a slow masticating juicer. But celery is incredible because it is so full of minerals. And those minerals and its natural sodium levels like feed the adrenal glands, and they feed the nervous system, and they feed the hydrochloric acid levels in your gut health. So if you are somebody that feels like your food just sits in your stomach, this is one thing that you should do every day is celery juice every morning. And just plain celery juice is great. You can add some citrus if you want, but some thoughts by the medical medium is just celery juice alone in the morning, 16 to 32 ounces, if you can hack that. But celery is an amazing, amazing component of feeding the nervous system, bringing up your natural sodium levels, and then feeding those electrical systems of the body. So when you have a weakened adrenal gland, you'll tend to crave salt. You'll crave salt or sugar because you're craving their stimulants. And so when we're feeding the natural sodium, you'll notice those cravings go down. You'll notice the nervous system health getting stronger. You'll notice the adrenal health getting stronger. And when you have strong adrenals, you are kind of like fearless. Like your body is so strong when your adrenals are strong. But all of us have some level of adrenal fatigue from all of the exposure to chemical pesticides and from the acid forming foods that we eat. All right, another one on the list is apricots. So apricots actually have 40 amino acids, which is incredible. So apricots, if you can get them in their whole form when they're in season, go crazy, buy a bunch, freeze them, blend them later. But apricots have tons of amino acids, tons of micronutrition, electrolytes that feed the nervous system. They have lots of vitamin C. So they're just like a really, really incredible fruit that kind of gets ignored, I feel like, other than like one tiny little season of the year. So apricots, get them in your body. And then apples. Apples are amazing for your system. So apples are a heavy detoxifier, and I just recently learned this from my business partner also, but they actually detoxify MSG, monosodium glutamate, out of the body. And that is a very big neurotoxic. It's called a neuroendocrine disruptor. So monosodium glutamate actually really, in the book that's called Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills, it like directly inhibits the neurotransmitter function, and it creates an opioid response in your body. So the body is like high when eating it, which is part of why it's so addictive, but it causes a ton of damage to the nervous system and to like the actual tongue, like your taste buds get damaged. So monosodium glutamate is super neurotoxic. We want it out. Apples help remove that. Apples also help clean the lymphatic system deeply. Don't underestimate the power of an apple. Like we've all heard, the apple a day keeps the doctor away. Mary Beth just reminded me of that in our last talk, and it's true. Like it does keep the doctor away. So yeah, so keep apples in your diet, and then like going through different sorts of superfoods like sprouts are amazing. They're super high in amino acids, which is feeding your brain health, your nervous system health. So like alfalfa sprouts, you can do broccoli sprouts, pea shoot sprouts, like it's just sprouts are great. If you can sprout them yourself, that's even better. If you are getting sprouts in a store, you want to make sure that they're not using chemicals on those sprouts, that they are sprouted, you know, organically sprouted. So I think if you can't find certified organic, if you find that says like local, no chemical, hydroponic is what you're looking for. And hydroponic is basically like beyond organic, but they haven't gone through the process of the certified organic labeling. All right, so that's some of my favorite foods to cover for that. There's so many, actually so many more, but really sticking, oh, and actually I really want to talk about berries, I'm sorry. Berries are my other thing. Like berries, like they grow on bushes, they grow wild blueberries are even better. So you can actually locally, if you're in Minnesota, find like mulberries all over trees. Mulberries by like the buckets. You can go mulberry picking. I highly recommend eating those. Mulberries, goji berries, blueberries, raspberries, they're so incredible for nervous system healing. They have tons of antioxidants, tons of phytochemicals, tons of B vitamins, not B vitamins, tons of vitamin C. And so these are the berries are like, I crave citrus, watermelon, and berries, right? So what does that tell you? Nervous system, nervous system, nervous system, nervous system. And we are experiencing so much collectively right now for stress, like are always being pulled into a meeting or a phone is dinging, or we're now homeschooling our kids, and you know, we're just dealing with a ton. So we're actually under more stress than we realize. And so I also want to talk about solutions of that in just a moment. So get your fruits, your berries, and your melons in, and those are your most powerful lymphatic cleansers. They're highly alkaline, and they're highly hydrating. Now, and they also have the highest angstroms of energy. The second highest angstrom of energy is your raw vegetables, and then the third is your lightly cooked vegetables. And the lowest angstroms of energy is actually your meats, your grains, your dairies, and your heavily cooked foods. And those are what our like culture survives off of. Like we eat coffee, we eat meat, we eat cheese every day. So we're having these very, very low vibrational, and by low, I mean like zero, like it has 0 angstroms of energy. And then when we ingest the animal tissues, we actually start to deplete energy from our body because it takes so much for our digestive system to process it. I won't get into that in this talk because it's a whole nother ball game of understanding our enzymes in our saliva and our organs and how our body processes all that. But you can check out my YouTube channel if you want to learn more on that. So just think about eating the way you want to feel. If you want high energy, you want to eat high angstrom energy feel. The higher you eat from the ground, the longer you stay out of the ground. And then if you're actually looking to feel really grounded but having really healthy grounded food, you want to eat deep rootsy foods. So like beets and carrots and parsnips and sweet potato, and all of those are actually really good for your endocrine health. And your endocrine system is your pituitary gland, your pineal gland, your thyroid, your parathyroid, you name it, it's all like connected with the endocrine system. So that's going to affect your growth stimulating hormone, your cycles, your fertility, etc. So getting in all of those foods are super healthy for you. A plant-based diet, or mostly plant-based, is the way you're going to have the highest energy, the highest health, and of course organic whenever possible. Especially those deep-rooted vegetables, because most potatoes and things are sprayed 6 times a day, and things like onions, garlic, and potatoes, they suck from the ground. So they're just like sucking in all of this oral antibiotic, class 1 carcinogenic toxic chemical, and then we're eating it and we're feeding it to our children as well. So education is power. And now I want to talk about how to heal the nervous system. So healing the nervous system, we already talked about angstroms of energy of food, highest vibrational foods, eating organic, and understanding the connection to your gut health. So now how do you strengthen your gut? right? So there's so many ways to strengthen your gut is through this food consumption, through alkaline food consumption, and then through certain things that remove glyphosate. So if you're interested in further solutions, I'll talk about that at the end. I want to give you a couple of tools that are tactical and practical for you to move through stress in your daily life. So I have a funny story. The other day, I was holding my brand new baby. He's 9 weeks now, what was 8 weeks at the time. And I was holding him over my shoulder, and he's like crying, and my 2-year-old's throwing herself on the floor, having an epic fit while I'm on a business call. Like, I've got my earbuds in, I'm trying to have a business call. She's throwing herself on the floor. I'm homeschooling my 2 girls that are upstairs that are 11 and 13. They're yelling down for food. And I was just like, my nervous system was lit up, right? So I laughed because that's all I could do. Like, this is hilarious. I'm trying to run a business. Who knew I was going to be homeschooling kids and then having a 2-year-old nightmare, and then my baby threw up all over my shirt and all over my back. And so that's an example of like the stress we're dealing with on a daily basis. We might even think about that, but like just like the constant day-to-day in parenting, the constant, now that we're homeschooling, now we're working from home, we're wearing many hats right now. And so collectively we're experiencing a lot more stress. And so our body can flip into fight or flight at any moment. And that's another thing to understand about the gut health. If your gut microbiome is poor, your body is actually constantly operating in fight or flight because the communication is not happening to the hypothalamus gland. So you're in that negative feedback loop, you're in this cortisol steroid production, so you could actually be completely living in sympathetic nervous system function. And that will make that you'll know that by having a really hard time getting to sleep, by having anxiety, having depression, having either situational or non-situational anxiety, like just random feelings of like, I'm having a panic attack or something bad's going to happen. And that's a sign that the adrenal glands are not behaving and that the autonomic nervous system is not doing well and you are stuck in sympathetic. So how we can bring ourselves back into parasympathetic. Other things that bring us into sympathetic other than bad foods. So the foods will bring you into sympathetic nervous system. So acid forming foods will bring you into fight or flight. Stress will bring you into fight or flight. High intensity exercise will bring you into fight or flight. And I know we all love HIIT and we all love that, but that needs to be in balance. And if you're working through an adrenal fatigue issue, I actually recommend that you do more walking and yoga and things that will keep your body strong, but that won't keep your body in fight or flight. Because when we're in fight or flight, our body thinks we're getting chased by a tiger and it starts to store fat. And we can develop a fatty liver, and we develop fat around our midriff, and all of these things. So your body will be operating in this fight or flight state. So it's a lot of information. So we'll take a big breath in, let it out. And that's the next thing I want to talk about is tactical tools to calm your nervous system. And breath work is number one. So when you feel this like rising in your body, you might even feel like flush in your cheeks or like your heart starts to race or you'll feel the knot in your stomach. Notice right now, the reason I'm actually sitting on the ground and not behind my desk is for this part of the class. And so you want your belly to be super soft. So let your belly go soft. Let it drop down and notice how many of you are already holding your belly in super tight. And so when we hold across this top section of the belly, that is your central nervous system. It's what's called the cisterna chyli. And that actually has like all this nerve hub, these nerves that communicate with your brain. And so we're constantly tight. We're constantly telling our body to be on guard, right? So even the way we hold ourselves affects our nervous system. So I want you to drop your belly down. Just let the Buddha belly out. It's all perfect. You're at your own house. And drop a smile on your face. Place your palms down to ground your energy. So I like to put them on my knees. I can even back up here a little bit and scoot my camera down so you can see. But ground down, palms on the knees. And close your eyes and take a big breath in. Open mouth, exhale. Inhale, fill up. Happy, sigh it out. One more inhale. Draw a smile on your face and exhale it out. Now already you feel calm. You've brought oxygen to your cells. So now your ATP is rising. Your nervous system is in better communication. Your blood has more oxygen. The body is starting to reduce its cortisol levels. And now we're going to practice a little breathwork exercise. Rita Jean did this one on our last video together. You can look up our nervous system health video on YouTube. And so you inhale for 2. Hold for 5 seconds. Exhale for 7. Inhale for 2. Hold for 5. Exhale for 7. Let's do that together without me talking. Inhale. One more. And come back into your body and just notice how you feel. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel brighter? Do you feel more calm? And this will bring us into parasympathetic. It'll bring us into that state of like, oh, I'm okay, I'm safe. I'm in rest and digest. I'm in this state of healing, of health. And so this is an important state to be in before you eat your food. If we go into our meals stressed with this high hormone, we are highly likely to not only be producing GSH, the growth stimulating hormone. So basically we're increasing our fat with our stress, and we're going into our meals stressed, and we're going to store more fat from that meal. So recently it's been a little chaotic in my household with a 2-year-old and an infant. So I've actually learned like some helpful tips and tricks if you're a parent of young ones is feed them first. Feed your kids first instead of having dinner together. Feed them, get them happy and settled. Get into a place where you can sit down with your meal and breathe before you eat. And take some of those breaths, and then be really present with your food, with the colors of the food, with the energy of the food, really looking at like, what am I eating? How much energy is in this? And so really looking at the vibrancy of your plate. And so I like to really look at the colors, and that's how I decide what's going on my plate. And when you think you're craving something else, you think you're craving like pasta or whatever else, and then you start to really get into the breath work and the appreciation of the food in front of you, and you start to look at all the colors, almost always that less colorful item doesn't look so attractive anymore, and you'll fill up on more of the other stuff. So those are some of my helpful tricks. Some other ones is yoga. Yoga is so beneficial to your nervous system health. It gets you into parasympathetic. It gets you into this restful state. So breath work, yoga, movement, and a couple of my favorite yoga postures, if you feel like you're having an anxiety attack, is to get the head below the heart. So I have my yoga mat here, and so you can take a downward dog like this, press back, really moving in, stretch. If that's not in your wheelhouse, you can take what's called a ragdoll pose. So you bend your knees, you lean over, interlace opposite arm, opposite elbow, head is heavy, face and jaw is relaxed, and you just kind of gently sway or just hold still, whatever feels good. And just wait until you feel like your body is calming down. And that's one of them, and I like to come up slowly. So come on up slowly. And then number 3 is called legs up the wall pose. So you're gonna lay back and bring your legs straight up. And this is rooting down the root chakra into the earth. You're actually grounding. When you ground the root chakra, you're gonna feel more stable and balanced and supported. So the root is telling your body that you're safe. And so I like to bring my hands over my abdomen and move into the vibration of safe, soft, and warm. My body is safe, soft, and warm.
And those are the things that the nervous system needs to heal to re-regulate itself, to move back into parasympathetic. So I'll lay like this if I'm feeling really stressed, especially even before a meal. I'll like go into my room and go the legs up the wall and breathe before I go eat dinner if I've had a really stressful day. All right. So those are some of my 3 favorite yoga tricks. And then another is really getting this diaphragm to release. So when your diaphragm is really, really tight, you will always be in that kind of fight or flight state. So drop your diaphragm, place your hands on your knees, and I like to do some Kundalini spirals. So I'll like actually spiral my torso. And this is like opening up your spine too. You know, you've got tons of nerves in the spine. So you're opening up all of that center, and it just like you kind of like have to have that top part of your belly soft because it would be really hard to do without. And then switch directions, start to make spirals, leading with the heart. Awesome. And come back center. Now let your belly fully drop. Draw a soft smile on your face and take a big inhale. And happy sigh, exhale. You can place your hand on your heart, your hand on your belly. And just really ground into your body. Awesome. So just notice how you feel right now if you're able to participate along with just those couple of items. So we can have all the education in the world, right? But stress can trump everything. So you could eat super, super healthy, which this is like something I'm very guilty of, that this is why this is such a passionate topic for me, and like actually a really current topic for me is I am like so healthy in all the ways. I eat 100% organic, I eat all plants, I take my herbs, and herbs are so powerful. They actually have like the highest level of angstroms of energy above fruit. But I live a very fast-paced life. And so taking more time to drop into that sympathetic, or to the parasympathetic, to drop into that healing state, to really get into the rest state. And then the last little tip I want to give you is getting to that early to heal your nervous system. So a lot of us think that 8 hours of sleep is all we need, but that's not the case. So if you sleep like midnight to 8, you're going to be having really crappy sleep. If you sleep from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, you're going to have amazing sleep and have way more energy in the morning. And the reason is because we are called what's called a light microorganism. A light microorganism is someone that should be awake during the day and asleep at night. And so we have this what's called a circadian rhythm. And a circadian rhythm means that we are designed to rise and set with the sun. And so when we don't set with the sun, obviously we've kind of migrated away from, the tropics, which is where we originated from, where we're descendants from. So our light goes away pretty quickly up here in Minnesota in the winter. So no, I'm not saying go to bed at 6, but like 9 o'clock, we should be asleep. The hours between 9 and 11 are the most reparative for your hormone system. So your body is releasing essential hormones for your thyroid, for your nervous system, for your parathyroid. So this is all like really like rich time to go to bed, is between 9 and 11. And when we don't go to bed between that time, we actually the body goes, oh, well, we still have to perform even though we're tired. So the body, adrenals, again, there they go, kicking up the cortisol, the steroids. So what are we doing? We're building our fat. We're building our fat hormones. We can actually create a fatty liver as well. I talk about that on some of my intermittent fasting talks. But also this is like what develops the late night eating, because when we stay awake later, then we feel hungry again, and the ghrelin in our body rises, which is our hunger hormone, which tells the pituitary to start producing more fat if it's not satiated, and that's a stress hormone. And so this is something about, like, if you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking to get your thyroid working or your metabolic function working or feel better, have more energy, eat more fruits, eat more plants, get to bed earlier, practice your breath work.
practice your yoga postures, and practice joy, like overall joy. If you want to know more information, you can find me at carrie@wisewellness.net. I do work with like high level of regenerative superfoods and gut healing herbs that are scientifically proven to remove glyphosate out of your body. So they remove 75% of glyphosate out in just 6 weeks. And that's on a clinical study and certified by the Detox Project. So I have tons of incredible solutions. If you are on this, if you're watching this, you will be given a $75 off your first consultation with me here at the clinic, and then also a $50 gift card towards your first purchase of gut healing herbs of $75 or more. So it's just a straight $50 gift card. So if you're interested in redeeming any of those, you can find me at my email is carrie@wisewellness.net. My website is wisewellness.net. And then on Instagram, you'll find me at Wise Wellness Health. And on Facebook, I'm Carrie Lynn Drinkwine, and you can find me at that or at Wise Wellness. So everything's pretty much Wise Wellness. If you type that in, you'll find me. And my deepest passion in this world is to help people live really vibrant lives and to understand that suffering is optional, and that when we really understand the systems of the body, that we can achieve absolute vibrant health. And a little tiny tidbit is I used to suffer with lots of autoimmune anxiety, depression, weight gain, infertility. I had Hashimoto. I was diagnosed with early onset lupus, et cetera, et cetera. I was in a very bad state several years ago, and I was able to completely regenerate my body, and I birthed 2 babies since I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility, and they wanted to put me on all sorts of hormones to help me if I was trying to get pregnant. And all I did was I shifted my diet, I cleaned my body, I got my kidneys filtering, I got my lymph system moving, I repaired my gut health, which repaired my nervous system health, which repaired my hormone levels, my hormone health. So I finally was producing proper levels of progesterone, proper levels of estrogen, proper levels of testosterone. So you can do anything. There are alternative ways. So if you're interested in learning more, reach out, come chat. All right, I hope you guys have a beautiful Saturday. I have a super full day at the clinic, so I've got to hop off. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Okay, bye.